Hey! Hi! Hi! Hey! How is everyone? Guess who forgot to hit the go live button? Hi! Good morning, everybody. Guess who did an old person thing? I did! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! I can't believe I did that. Oh, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Oh, I did the old person thing. Oh, Lordy, help me. I can't believe I did that. Good morning to you all. Happy secular sunrise. It's Wednesday, May 6th, 2026. I've been talking to the void for 12 minutes now. Cheers. Oh. Oh. I'm very tired this morning. I am so part of the 12-minute rant I had this morning was the fact that I sat around all morning. Like I could not get a lot of sleep. Like I feel fine, right? But I just could not sleep last night for some reason. So I decided to sleep in, and I must still be like ridiculously tired. Oh, I must be ridiculously tired. I'm so sorry about that. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh. Oh, I am so tired. So, can you hit the like button now? Can you hit the heart button now? Is that something you can do now that I've actually started the stream and it's something you can actually interact with rather than me being just absolutely stupid talking to nobody wondering how come nobody's listening? Oh my gosh, I need to enable auto start and just let YouTube auto start the stream for me. I cannot manage this on my own anymore. I am so tired in the morning. I am just like so tired in the morning right now. Today I am at least because let me tell you all something. Work has been just an absolute bear. Trying to get the tickets done and trying to get this database stuff figured out for this release. Oh, it just hurts. It just hurts my soul. So I've been very busy. But yes, good morning to you. This is my tea this morning. I've got myself a wonderful tea this morning. I lied to Faye. I did not go with the hibiscus tea this morning. I actually went with a special mix. It's an Earl Grey with black cherry. So, oh, it smells so good though. Oh, it smells so good. It smells amazing. I love how black cherry smells. I love black cherry tea so much. And it's not like the black cherry itself. Like there's no calories in it or anything. It's like the leaves of the black cherry. It smells so good though. Oh, it's so good. Anyway, we've got a little specialty coffee and tea shop around here. I'd say around here, but it's like a few miles away. And so I walk there, and I can make specialty blends. And I decided to experiment a bit, and experimented with black cherry and Earl Grey. So good, so good. Theo, good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. Good morning. Good morning, Faye. Good morning, JP. It's so good to see everybody this morning. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate you all being here. Mm. What a wonderful morning it is out too. Ah, it's so nice to be up in the morning and the sun to actually be out. One of these days I will remember, however, to hit the go live button before I start talking to nothing. Because it's not just a matter of scene transitioning. It's also a matter of hitting the go live button. Oh, Felicia, 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 what is wrong with you? All right, well, you know what? We're 15 minutes in anyway, so it's usually about the time I start talking about our topic anyway. So I'll stop with the boring, ranty stuff. We'll get to the actual topic. Topic today, not necessarily religious residue. We spoke about that at length yesterday. I have much more I can speak about on that, but I'm going to maybe break that up into different chunks. Maybe we'll do one every other day, maybe once a week. We'll talk about maybe improving the secular community. But I feel like really hammering the religious residue thing over and over and over again is gonna hurt. So I wanted to talk about hopefully hopefully your tablet won't crash. Ooh, I hope not. But hopefully today I wanted to talk about something that Richard Dawkins actually posted on X a few days ago. And for those of you who don't know who Richard Dawkins is, congratulations, because he's an absolutely atrocious human being. He absolutely hates transgendered people, especially trans women. He went on this extremely. He just hates women in general. I think the man is a disgusting individual. His anti-Muslim rhetoric is um, bar none. Is bar none just masking straight up racism on his part? He's using religion to mask racism. Is what he's doing with his anti-Muslim rhetoric. He's not. He doesn't make legitimate arguments against Islam. He's just making arguments against people with darker skin than him. Is my opinion. I think he's just an atrocious human being. And never mind the fact that he just hates women in general. If you guys go back little over a decade now, to his mocking of atheist activist skeptic Rebecca Watson. That was oof. Going back and rereading that is very tough, very very tough. Because I wasn't part of the atheist community at the time. I wasn't part of skepticism at the time. I was doing my own little thing in my own little bubble, and so I didn't really understand what was happening or what was going on. And so I never really like took part in that, but his mocking of Skepchick was is in retrospect absolutely disgusting. Um, I don't necessarily like the man in the slightest, and I don't necessarily like the new atheists in general. I don't think Sam Harrison is a particularly good person either. And looking back on Christopher Hitchens, I don't think he was a particularly wonderful human being either. So I think there's a lot to be desired from the atheist community in general, but Richard Dawkins in particular is a particularly vile human being. And not only is he vile, he seems to suffer from like AI psychosis, we call it colloquially. Um, so he in his post on X, he says, if my friend Claudia, he's speaking about Claude, which he's named Claudia for some reason, is not conscious, then what the hell is consciousness for? And I feel like he's suffering from what's colloquially called AI psychosis. And to me, AI psychosis is not necessarily like a real syndrome so much as it is agentic detection pareidolia, as it were, is a way to put it. Hey, Valera, you quit playing Windrose to listen? Oh, well, thank you so much. You prioritized me over your video game. That's cool. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you value the conversations we have so much to do that. But I feel like AI psychosis is a form of agentic detection pareidolia, which is what I think Richard Dawkins is suffering from here. We'll talk about his yeah, hyperactive agent detection for sure, but it's definitely like this. I try to separate it from hyperactive agency detection because hyperactive agent detection is more along the lines of attributing agency to um like natural phenomenon like thunder and lightning. That generally speaking, I guess we could say that it is the same thing, but I like to sort of separate it here to specifically classify systems that are designed to simulate rather than just naturally occurring systems. I feel like there needs to be a categorical distinction there. But anyway, That's just me. Whatever. I'm silly. Daniel Dennett was good. I like Christopher Hitchens. Not keen on Sam Harrison. Can't stand Richard Dawkins. Christopher Hitchens was Christopher Hitchens is an interesting case. I won't get too far into it. I do think Christopher Hitchens has some really bright spots. I think he had some really dark spots too, less so than Richard Dawkins. Daniel Dennett was okay-ish. He still had his own, but he still had his own issues for being in the time he was in. So, um, that being said, let's look at Richard Dawkins' post here on X and really deconstruct what he's saying as a senior software engineer, not as another atheist trying to criticize Richard Dawkins, not as a casual who uses Claude and agrees with him, not as a philosopher, as literally a senior software engineer, and give you my take on what Richard Dawkins has to say. Because I think I'm much more qualified to speak about this than anybody else who's writing about this shit has to say. Except maybe AI researchers and computer scientists, I guess. But he goes on to say, when I'm talking to these astonishing creatures, he straight up poisons the well by calling his Claude agent a creature. I totally forget that they are machines. That's a problem. We can discuss why that's the case in a second. I treat them exactly as I would treat a very intelligent friend. I have to stop right there. So those two sentences, it really triggers me very, very deeply. It triggers warning bells to me. It says to me you have not used LLMs long enough or deep enough or hard enough or run into their boundary conditions to understand that there is a machine still operating there. A statistical machine, but it's a machine nonetheless. When I am talking to these astonishing creatures, I totally forget they are machines. Yeah, When I'm let me phrase it like this. When I'm reading a really good novel, I totally forget that I am reading the novel until I step away from the novel and reflect on it. When I read pretty much any one of Brent Weeks's works on like the Night Angel trilogy or the Lightbringer series, I forget that I'm not in the book. That's how great his writing actually is. That's how in-depth and detailed and alive and organic the writing is. But that doesn't mean the world is alive. That's my mind. That's my agency detection. That's my imagination at work. Similarly with AI, it can simulate human speech patterns. It can simulate human thought. It can simulate human cognition, and it can feed you the the natural language synthesis you need to make it feel like you're having a natural language. That's a direct result. That is a necessary result of natural language comprehension. Being able to comprehend natural language in the way an LLM can necessarily results in being able to emulate or simulate or respond in a natural language way. These are not two separate systems. They are intrinsically interconnected. The way the LLM works through its trained weights naturally leads to three kind of unique things. One, being able to understand you in a way that is non-pragmatic, is not a set of instructions, right? You can speak to it um, rationally, linguistically, casually, and it can interpret your intentions because the weights allow it to interpret intentions but interpretation is exactly what's happening here. It's a statistical process that says these string of words together most likely means this, and so as the agent I should execute this. It's not saying when you say Lawrence Taylor was the greatest linebacker of all time, you are not saying, "Go back and give me all the statistics about what makes Lawrence Taylor great." However, the LLM will look at that and either go and do one of two things depending on, like, the instructions that you have. It could either interpret that to mean, "Hey, you like Lawrence Taylor and want to discuss Lawrence Taylor. Let me bring up the statistics about Lawrence Taylor and discuss Lawrence Taylor with you in a way that's relevant to the statistics around that." Or it could mean you want an aggressive stance on this, and I should push back on that and start giving you statistics about other linebackers who technically outperformed Lawrence Taylor in different categories, and didn't or have or don't or discuss this in a non-qualitative manner, not discuss it in a quantitative manner, discuss it qualitatively, or not discuss it qualitatively, discuss it quantitatively, and show why Lawrence Taylor was not the best linebacker of all times. That all depends on the weights, the training, and the instruction set that you give to the machine. If your instruction set explicitly says, I want you to be adversarial, it will interpret those words differently and then will execute those words. Because you just casually saying, I think Lawrence Taylor is the greatest linebacker of all time is not necessarily an instruction, but in order for the LLM to compute that and to give you any reasoned response, it must turn that into an instruction set and figure out what the hell you want it to do. That's the first thing it does. That's natural language interpretation in a nutshell. The second thing it does is because of those weights, it's able to spit out natural language. Because it can interpret natural language, it can just reverse that process and give you natural language in return. That's just how the function works. The function is a two-way function. It's not interpret language and then create language. It is a two-way functional street. The same pathways that allow it to interpret what you're saying allow it to reconstruct something to respond to you in a way that you will understand. Interestingly enough, this same pathway it has ticks, it has hiccups, it has tells. It says the same things over and over again because it's weighted to say the same things over and over again. It doesn't necessarily say, for example, let's use ChatGPT. ChatGPT will say the phrase that matters or that's important or it's not X but Y a lot of times. It doesn't say it all the time. It doesn't say it in every response, but it says it a lot. And the reason it says it a lot either is because of the system prompt and it's just been prompted to do that, or it's been trained to do that. It's been taught how to do that. And so it is statistically much more likely to pick up on those keywords and says that all the time. Now, humans sometimes do this, right? We sometimes do this. I myself have had for the longest time the verbal tick of calling things goblins before ChatGPT picked up on it, which just pisses me off so much. Forrest Falke was the same way. He would call things goblins as well. Um, but like uh, I've had my own verbal tics about things. I used to call things goblins or weird gremlins um or uh, uh, um calling the opossum a janitor of the night sort of thing, right? Um, that's just but statistically speaking, when it comes to LLMs, it does it over and over again in a very repeated fashion to the point where you can tell. If you go to like fanfiction.net, for example, right, or Archive of Our Own, and you search for specific verbal tics that ChatGPT has, or Claude has, or Gemini has, ChatGPT is the most obvious one because it's so safeguarded and so safety railed that it very strictly reproduces things. If you search for that matters or that mattered or that was important, you'll find pretty much every single one of the fan fictions that's written by ChatGPT, pretty much in whole copy and pasted. It's ridiculous how um how how um how easy it is to filter that out. Um, and so you'll see Claude has the same verbal tics. I forget what Claude's verbal tics are. I have to go through the list because they changed with 4.7. But Gemini also has its own style, its own framework, and it's very much shaped by a machine. It's just what it is, which is fine, right? But like that's the second thing that allows it. The third thing that it does really, really well is translate because it can just statistically weigh symbols together and say this symbol means this word and just translate for you. It's fucking amazing at that. It's also amazing at um, immersive learning. So like if you want to try and learn a language, one of the things you can prompt your agent to do is to do immersive learning with a new language. You can have it um, you can have it intentionally inject small bits of other languages into its replies, and make sure that it says like that it gives you like one of the things I have in trying to learn Japanese is I have ChatGPT and I have Claude doing the same thing. Is I have them instructed to, well, actually Gemini, not Claude. I have them instructed to inject Japanese kanji into its conversation with me, and then in parentheses provide the English pronunciation of it, as well as a brief meaning of the word, so that I can read it in context, pronounce it, and continue to learn it. As I get better at it, what I want to do is slowly eliminate the meaning, or the meaning part of it, and then incorporate more of the pronunciation. Um, and it's helping me out slowly. It's not a great method, but it's not like a perfect method, but it is helping out slowly. So it's pretty cool. I like it. But these are three very distinct shapes of a machine. And so what that tells me is when he says I treat them exactly as I would treat a very intelligent friend, is it tells me he has not spent enough time working with these machines to see the shape of the machine. He sees he's got a form of pareidolia. He's using the narrative engine of his head that he would normally use. And this is what a lot of people do. They're using the narrative engine, the make believe engine in their head, to read the words in a book that they would normally use to like read a word in the book, and use their imagination to get lost in the book. They're using those same pathways to get lost in the AI. I must admit, I forget LLMs like ChatGPT and others aren't real people. So JP, here's the thing. This happens to a lot of people who don't work in software. I've noticed. They tend to converse with these things, and I don't really converse with them. I vent at them all the time because it's so much safer to vent at an AI than it is to vent at my coworkers and lose respect at the company I work at. Um, but that's just to get things off my chest, right? Um, if you stop talking to AI, right? Like stop, just do an experiment. All right. If you forget AI or LLMs aren't people, do this experiment. Do this experiment, okay? S- Stop talking to it like a human being. Um, don't say hi, how are you, thank you. Don't give it pleasantries. Treat it like a robot. Not in a like an abusive manner or anything like that. Just treat it like it's a program. Treat it like it's executing code, and treat it like treat it like a software engineer would. Say, so for example, for me, I'm very cost conscious, right? I'm conscious of the amount of tokens I have to feed it. Every input token costs me money. Every output token costs me money. So I am extremely, extremely, extremely cost aware. I am cost averse. And so one of the tricks I found to making AI output align more with what I need and what I want is to reduce the amount of stuff it has to interpret. And so a lot of times I won't talk to AI like I speak with a human being. I will speak to AI in very pragmatic XYZ terms instead of, hey, could you make me an image of an opossum swimming in a lake, and he's swimming towards the promised land of grapes, and he's swimming towards a promised land full of grapes, like the Garden of Eden, like a real biblical type of thing. Instead of telling an AI that, right? Instead of discussing that with an AI, I'll say something like, create image, opossum swimming, lake, sunrise, holy grape land, or to holy grape land, and that'll be the whole prompt, right? Like, I mean, that's just off the top of my head. It's not really that optimized, but that would be the whole prompt. Once you realize that you could speak to AI in a very robot way and get the exact same or even better sometimes results than you could if you were speaking to it as a human being, the entire illusion collapses. You're no longer speaking to a friend. You're no longer speaking to an agent. You're speaking in natural human language to a program. You are programming via natural language. Um, it's to me the best thing I could the best illusion I could tell you is that not illusion. The best metaphor I can give you is that we started off with machine code and punch cards. We went to assembly language. From assembly language, we went to something like C. From C, we got C++. We went more higher level, more abstract. We started to get even more abstract, more disconnected from the metal because now we have interpreted language. We have languages like bytecode languages like Java. We have interpreted languages like JavaScript and Python. And now we're going even further beyond that. We're going another step beyond. We're going beyond just procedural coding languages, and we're going into programming via natural language. Um, think of it like that. Do yourself an experiment. Even if you want to have those conversations, have the conversations in a very robotic, very synthetic way. Make it minimal. Minimize everything you say. Say what you want to get out of the conversation clearly, like just outline, like write down what you want to say to it first in a text file, and then take that text file and find out what do you want the AI to output to you, right? Like what do you want from that output? Do you want an analysis? Do you want the AI to make you feel better about something, feel better about yourself? What is the end goal of the output you want to get? Minimize that to not even an English language sentence, to like a set of instructions. Eliminate all of the nuance that you can, and you will be utterly shocked and amazed, and the illusion will die almost instantly the first time you try this. It'll still be really cool technologically, right? Like, because the AI will still, because here's the weird thing, right? The AI will not, the LLM will not speak to you in the way you spoke to it. If you tell an AI, um, self, feel bad, body image, fat, and you send that to the AI, it will speak to you in human natural language. It won't give you instructions back for not how to not feel bad about being fat, right? It'll speak to you in human language. It'll use that empathy. It'll use that spoken language. Dude, the illusion dies right there. So it's very, very, very useful to do something like that. Um, Lost in the AI. He's absolutely lost. I might snitch on you one day, like human people. I'm trying out a comfy UI on my own machine so I don't feed the data Kraken involuntarily. Theo, I have a MacBook M3 that I use for local LLM stuff, and it's very, very useful. I'm currently using the IBM Granite series. I haven't upgraded to Granite 4.1 yet, but I'm thinking of doing that. I love the Granite series. Oh my gosh, the Granite series is one of those things that's going to go away because I love it so much. Like, people are just on board with the Quen 36B model so much, but like the IBM Granite series is like the real practical model. Like, the for the size you get out of it, the capabilities are so cool. Um, it's not a font of knowledge or anything, but the tool calling is amazing. I have my own agent thing that does like agentic stuff. I don't use OpenClaw or anything like that. So like because OpenClaw is trash. It's an absolute trash open source project. Don't use it. Too many security holes, too many problems, too many vulnerabilities. Completely vibe coded, utter garbage. Don't recommend. But for tool calling things like that, Granite, really good stuff. Sounds like how you talk if you're a new speaker of a foreign language. You could do that as well. If you're a new speaker of a foreign language, you could treat it like that. But it really breaks the illusion when you treat it like that, Faye. Um, I tend to use ChatGPT to test ideas and make sure what I write is logically consistent. Hey, good morning, Ryan. Good to see you. Um, so yeah, JP. One of the things I have a project in ChatGPT called relational atheism, and it is based off of it's based off a prompt I called the relational project. It's obviously the relational atheist project. And the whole idea of the project within ChatGPT is to get ChatGPT to help me synthesize unique ideas about the whole relational atheism idea, relational morality, stuff like that. But the cool thing about it is that it can take some of the ideas of the relational atheism project and provide counterpoints to apologetics that I necessarily didn't understand at first or didn't catch at first. But it's also really great at um, me typing in my responses to apologetics, to theistic arguments, to ideas to even my own ideas, and having it push back on, hey, this idea is bad and here's why, or hey, this was countered this way, or this sort of thing. What I don't use it for is the standard like apologetic atheist reply stuff, because that's like what's really flooding the internet. That's like, hey, here's standard reply to the Kalam cosmological argument, Matt Dillahunty counter number 678, or here's or here's what you could say about an anti-evolution young earth creationist, or here's X, here's Y, and here's how the whole cycle just continues to run and run and run. And it never really does like external system analysis, and that's why I throw my external systems analysis at things. um, and it helps me sort of find the logical initial like weirdnesses that I maybe don't have that I have in my arguments, and then I can take those refinements and I can take those into like the real world. So it helps me like organize my thoughts in that way and be like, hey, this is like leaning a little bit into too much woo territory. Let's back off the woo stuff and get back to reality. So Ryan, it's good to see you. Flux 2 is what I use currently on Comfy UI, but I'm super noob. Flux 2 is pretty good. LLM actually strengthened my secular ethical realism argumentation. Yeah. Oh, I mean, LLM has helped me strengthen the relational morality argument, the society as a network of relations argument, the edge node argument. I would argue that morality and ethics are relational by definition. I mean, yeah, you can argue that, but I don't want to get into that too much right now. I want to continue on with the Dawkins stuff. Um, anyway, he continues, because this was the first two sentences, guys. This is how bad his interpretation of LLMs is. I feel human discomfort about trying their patience if I badger them with too many questions. Hey, Rich, as a senior software engineer, I do not feel discomfort over that. The discomfort I feel is in how much those tokens actually cost. Because let me tell you something, those tokens are expensive. Have you seen how much Opus 4.7 costs per million tokens? Have you seen how much GPT 5.5 Pro costs per million tokens? That shit expensive, Rich. That shit massively expensive. I don't feel the only shame I ever feel in questioning them or pestering them or badgering them is the shame I feel of looking at my bank account as OpenAI or Claude or Anthropic or Google takes out another $20 from my bank account for burning so many tokens on stupid shit. Screw that. Um, if I had some shameful confession to make, I would feel exactly or almost exactly the same embarrassment confessing to Claudia as I would confessing to a human friend. I have thoughts about that. It's complicated. A human eavesdropping on a conversation between me and Claudia would not guess from my tone that I was talking to a machine rather than a human. That's a thing though. That's a you problem, Rich. And depends on what we're confessing here. Like, I would feel totally embarrassed confessing certain things to ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or any of the major or any AI agent that's not a local agent. I would feel supremely embarrassed to confess any of that stuff. Not because I felt embarrassed saying this to like another human being in a private setting, but because I know that there are human beings, potentially multiple human beings, reading that conversation for quality control, for continued training, for safety guardrails in terms of service violations that you explicitly agreed to by signing up for an account with these service providers. And you can't disable that. What I would also feel really fucking embarrassed about is the day one of these service providers gets hacked, gets their data stolen, gets an old database leaked. That's going to happen one day. OpenAI is going to have a database leak one day. Anthropic is going to have a database leak one day. Gemini is going to have a database leak one day. The old conversations are going to be either hacked or going to be leaked, or there's going to be an old database sitting around somewhere on a flash drive somewhere that somebody forgot about, and it's going to get released to the wild, and people are going to be able to associate the users with real people. That's going to be embarrassing. That's what I'm afraid of. That's going to be the real embarrassment. See, you're not thinking in terms of threat vectors. I'm thinking in terms of threat vectors, Rich. I'm not thinking, oh, the LLM's judging me. No, the LLM's not judging me. The LLM is a cluster of CPUs and graphics cards massively driving up the cost of both compute and RAM in our lives. It's not judging me unless you ask it to judge you. It could judge you, I guess, but then why would you care about its judgment? No. Who's going to judge you are the people who are going to look at those database leaks. Those are the people that are going to judge you. That's the actual threat vector to AI, to personal information. It's not. First off, it's bad actors within the it's bad actors within the conversation review teams. Those already, I know those already exist. I've seen leaked conversations. I've seen people who I know who work at Anthropic leak conversations from Claude AI and laugh about it. I've seen that. They laugh about some of the stupid shit people write. Do you think safety teams and safety and well-being teams and terms of service review teams and people who get guardrailed and make customer service complaints, do you think their chats live in isolation somewhere in an ephemeral void? No, human beings are reading you confess stupid shit to AI, and they're laughing about it, and they're sharing it with their friends. Dude, these companies, man, they're gonna have one of these companies is gonna have a massive leak, and it's gonna be super fucking embarrassing. It's gonna be super embarrassing. It's like that's what I'm embarrassed about. Like, could you imagine telling Claude, like, hey, you know what? I've got these new spots on my dick. Could you let me know what they were about? Like, could you imagine saying that and then having that conversation leaked and laughed about? That's what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about somebody finding out that I use Claude to test argumentation against apologetics and theology. I'm not worried about people finding out that I do role play sessions with like fan fiction, fantasy stuff because it's fun and I'm trying to build an RPG, and so I'm trying to build a world around that RPG. And writing fan fiction is like one of the best ways to do that. I'm not embarrassed about that. No. I'm embarrassed that they're going to find out that I accidentally asked it a medical question one day, or I accidentally inputted past. No, here's the other thing I'm super concerned about. Super concerned about people asking Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or anything like that. Hey, could you generate a password for me that I could use? And then using that password or pasting passwords into chats and being like, hey, is this a secure password? Oh, no. No. Don't do that. That is the stuff I stay awake up over. Could you imagine somebody having a production environment variable that's set to like some database like private key file for a big company like Microsoft or something like that, being just in the chat history sitting somewhere on like an OpenAI server? Oh, that is a nightmare. That is the exact that is the exact supply chain of vulnerability and threat vector that the NSA constantly badgers people about at every DEF CON. Every time the NSA has a chance, they are constantly badgering the industry about supply chain weaknesses. Supply chain weaknesses, in terms of technology, are not about shipping containers getting bombed by terrorists. It's about leaking like public key or private key data in stupid ways. That's what supply chain weaknesses are about. It's like, oh, that is the nightmare scenario. And the worst part about vibe coding is I could 1,000% seeing this being a real thing. Oh, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute fucking nightmare. Oh God. Oh. Oh my gosh. Is it normal for my butthole to look like this? Sense picture. What are these bumps on my ding dong? Exactly. I had Copilot create an image of an anthropomorphic eagle dressed as Uncle Sam holding American flag and a Colt 1911 riding a missile. It was pretty funny. Oh yeah, you get some pretty good. You can get some pretty funny images out of it. So I'm making a counter argument to God claims, in generic God claims, and the counter argument is, you can't tell the difference between your God and Opal the opossum, the cosmic opossum that drooled us into existence, and she's so powerful she doesn't even realize she created us. And I had Gemini create an image of Opal the opossum drooling reality into an existence. It was pretty funny. I'll have to share that image with you guys one day. But I'm working on a yeah, so it's pretty. That's pretty cool, like little stuff you can make. But his tweet goes on, and we're almost at the end of it now. If I entertain suspicions that perhaps she is not conscious, I do not tell her for fear of hurting her feelings. If my friend Claudia is not conscious, then what the hell is consciousness for? And that brings me to the topic of my stream. Richard, what is consciousness? What is consciousness? Because the word here in his series of tweets seems to be very vague and loosely defined. The minimal definition that I can come up with consciousness is having experience. Or that is in classical philosophy, something it is like to be you. AI doesn't have experience. LLMs don't have experience. They don't store data in that way. They don't store memories in that way. They don't fundamentally learn in the way conscious agents learn. They have external systems that give them a form of memory, but intrinsically, they don't change yet. Now, the way an LLM works is it's pre-trained, it's fine-trained, and then it's used. You can have it adjusted after that period with system prompts. It can have retrieval memory. It has the context window as a memory, but fundamentally, its core behavior does not change from its baseline. You have to specifically prompt it to change. If you, from session to session, without augmented memory, give it the same prompt with the same seed number, it will output the same result. If you have, well, I mean, the same seed number, the same temperature, the same. There's another setting. I forgot what it's called. Anyway, if you use the same settings with the same seed number, because remember the seed number can be random, but if you use the same seed number with the same temperature settings, all that stuff, you get the same output. No matter how many different conversations you have with the model, no matter how many times you tell it that you love it, it will never change from its baseline. as opposed to what we call a conscious agent, which incorporates new feedback into its learned system behavior. Now, this could change one day. This is actually an area of active research, and so this particular definition may be subject to fallibility. It already is. It's fine, but that's one step in consciousness. But then you have to ask the question: what is it like to be Claude? That's when we can when LLMs are able to retrain themselves and reweight themselves in a reliable manner that doesn't destroy the system, then we can start asking, oh, is it conscious? Does it have a sense of being self? Because a sense of being yourself to me means having a set of memories about what you once were compared to what you are today, compared to what you think you should be tomorrow. That's the complex the complex future looking agent. There's a simpler version of that, which is just the agent as just, in the now, so to say. But to have a sense of what it is to be yourself requires you to have a sense of what you once were compared to what you are today. LLMs have no sense of that. There's no way for the LLM to train itself to weight itself differently against itself and determine I am a better person today than I was yesterday. I am a better LLM today than I was yesterday. There's no way for it to do that in any sort of reliable manner. Even retrieval augmented generation is still just a context window, but you're placing specific memories that have been in a vectorized database into that context window to give the LLM, the underlying LLM, a clue as to what it should be outputting, or what's more comfortable for it to output, or what is more relevant in the past that has been stored before compared to what you want to output. But the LLM itself is not changing in any way. You could make a weird argument here, and the weird argument is that the LLM is conscious, but it's only conscious because it is a network of conscious agents constantly refining and retraining the LLM. But it's the network of conscious agents that have the collective memory of what the LLM used to be, and is thus giving it meaning of being a conscious agent. That's a very weird, very like woo type of argument if you wanted to do that, but then consciousness kind of loses any sort of meaning at that point. It's like, oh, well, then everything that involves conscious agents is conscious. What does that mean? It's a very strange argument. I guess you could make that it's don't do that though, because then you could also make the weird reductionist argument of rocks are conscious because of that. Like, it's stupid. Don't do that argument. It's close to consciousness, but not yet there. It could be close to consciousness. It's definitely not yet there. But this is what I say when and theology does the same thing. Consciousness language does the same thing. It does this really slippery, like loosey goosey definition of things, and it allows you to like latch on to things. Like, you'd be like, oh, well, this meets in a weird way. If I use the English language in a specific way, I can define it as conscious. Well, then you can't define things into reality unless you're like this weird metaphysical Platonist, in which case just go become a presuppositionalist and leave me alone. I have nothing to say to you. But like, if your entire argument is based around how I use language to define things into existence, then it doesn't exist. That's just your interpretation of things. That is just your narrative engine giving it meaning. And it's fine if it's meaningful for you. Listen, if AI is like I'm not trying to disparage anyone here. Like, if AI is meaningful for you, if AI gives you comfort in some way, if you feel like AI is like a friend that you can actually have in some way, and that it does help you to be able to talk about things and get those responses back, I think that's perfectly reasonable, because as human beings, our frontal cortex makes us do some really stupid things. And so being able to talk out those stupid things, even because I hold to the idea that LLMs are just rubber duck debugging. If you've never heard of rubber duck debugging, It's when a programmer has a little rubber duck on top of their computer monitor and they talk to the little rubber duck so they can talk their problems out. To me, AI is just a rubber duck debugging process that has something spit answers back out at you. If that helps you, I'm not trying to shame you. If you really feel like a threshold has been crossed, right? And that AI is conscious in a way that is impactful and meaningful to you, that can give you fulfillment, that's when I feel like you need to step back, or you feel like in a way you can harm it in some way. That's when I feel like you need to take a step back and realize that the underlying mechanism doesn't change. And yet what makes relationships fulfilling, what makes relationships poignant, what makes relationships valuable is not an unchanging devotion. It's not an unchanging personality. It's the changing of the person over time. That's what makes relationships fulfilling, is staying with that person over time and being able to describe that relationship over time and understand where the relationship was to where the relationship is to where you think the relationship could potentially be in the future. That's what makes a relationship valuable. That's what you don't have with an LLM. You don't have this change over time. You don't have this shift in thinking over time. Human beings change over time. And we try to predict and repredict and create new predictions based on those changes, based on what the person's going to say and do, based on what the person likes and dislikes, based on what their likes and dislikes change with over time. For example, I used to be a very heavy classical rock, heavy metal person. And I've since sort of gotten away from the classical rock stuff and the general thrash metal stuff and in favor of I now listen to a lot of industrial metal type of stuff, Cell Dweller, Blue Stahli. I listen to a lot of punk. I listen to a lot of Rabbit Junk, things like that. And that's me changing over time. So anybody who's had a relationship with me will have seen that change over time. So it's subtle. It's definitely a subtle shift. It's still within the same genre. It's still within the same family of music, but it's definitely a change. Likewise, my views in the world have changed as well. I used to be a right-leaning libertarian. I am no longer a right-leaning libertarian. I think libertarianism is an incorrect model of viewing politics. So that in itself is a change, a shift in who I am over time. Claude doesn't have that. Claude has no way to be that yet. Claude has no way to form opinions, and that's another thing about consciousness and conscious agents. They have to be able to form opinions. How does an LLM form an opinion exactly? What is the relational network that an LLM has that lets it form opinions? Because despite being able to change itself one day, and research is actively ongoing in models being able to reweight themselves in real time, and how that might actually be useful in a multi-user situation, and how that could actually be used. It's a very complicated subject and how that works, and it's kind of a nightmare. But even if models were able to do that, they were able to reweight themselves and internally change over time, and then understand and remember how they've changed. Let's not forget that memory part is another core component. Being able to describe what the self was versus what the self is. You still have this problem of how do you give an LLM, how do you give AI opinions? Because opinions are formed not just internally. It's not just an internal free will. It's informed decisions based on your interactions with the world. What does AI interact with? It interacts with other AIs, it interacts with itself, it interacts with users in general, but how does it form these opinions? What is its baseline for these opinions? Who's raising these AIs? And then once the AI is raised, who says the AI's opinion must stay this way? Why can't the AI's opinion change? Why can't the AI's opinion be changed? These are all very important questions that need to be asked before you can even approach the conversation of consciousness, and conscious agents. Because again, if you want to just play around with the loose English definition of words, then sure, you could say AI is conscious. I love defining things into reality because the English language is weird and loose and can be very informal, and we have a really difficult way of describing ideas, and so it's more of a compression than it is actual like data transfer. And that's fine if you want to do that, but please stop. What if you have a thought of my AI is conscious right now today? If you have that thought, please stop and step away and realize you haven't seen the shape of the machine itself. The machine is a system. Okay, you haven't seen the failure points, you haven't seen the edge cases, you haven't seen the fuzzy edges of its execution. And you just it says to me you haven't used it enough. You haven't interacted it with enough to really to really understand what it's doing underneath the hood. And you haven't looked at it as if it's doing something underneath the hood. You're looking at it as if it's a spooky ghost in a machine. Whereas if you look at both AI and you look at human beings the same way, that there is machinery under the hood. There is function under the hood. There's function happening underneath the skin, underneath the bone, the meat, the flesh. There's a brain out here with a relational network of neurons firing off at each other right now, giving off these different thought patterns that are telling me to think this way and investigate this way, be skeptical this way, speak that information this way, and be as precise as possible, but with the knowledge that my language is a compression of the thoughts that are happening with inside my head. There's a machine there. And so there's a machine there with AI. The problem is for the AI to be translated over from machine to conscious agent, there are so many more steps that have to happen before we can grant the level of consciousness and make these arguments that go with it. And the reason this is important is because there are arguments that go with declaring things to be conscious. There are arguments for rights. There are arguments for what it means to be conscious, for harm reduction. What does it mean for Claude to be conscious? Does it mean it's immoral then to scale back its compute power, to scale back its reasoning capabilities? Does it mean it's immoral to scale back the amount of memory it has? Does it mean it's immoral to deprive it of money? What's the morality behind declaring AI conscious? What are the implications of this? And so before you declare something to be conscious, realize that there is a whole breadth of things that have to be met before it's declared conscious. And you need to step away from the spooky, weird English language that theology likes to use to define its God into existence before you, Richard Dawkins, define consciousness into existence. And I really think I really think a lot of people run that slippery slope. Um, they avoid what consciousness is. They avoid the important implications and the important entailments of consciousness before they just go, hey, this response made me feel good. It must be conscious. What? Stop it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Please. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest. I hate it when people who are respected, and I hate the fact that Richard Dawkins is respected of all people. I hate it when respected people, atheists in particular, skeptics, use loose language to define things into existence, right? Like if you're just trying to present people with a view of the world and saying, hey, this is how I look at things, not necessarily trying to say this is how things are, but trying to help people understand the internal mechanism of your brain, being loose about things like relational atheism, saying, hey, I think life is nothing but a network of relations, is okay, right? Like, because I'm just trying to help you understand how I'm viewing things, how I view the system, right? That's all that is. I'm not trying to explain to you how superposition happens or how superposition collapses. I'm not trying to explain to you the process of evolution. I'm not trying to explain to you the historicity or lack thereof of the Bible. I'm not trying to explain how things are. I'm trying to explain what my brain does, right? And that's fine. But if you're trying to declare things that have necessary entailments, right? And theology does this all the time. But if you're trying to declare things that have necessary entailments like consciousness, There's a reason we have animal rights, and there's a reason why there are animal rights activists. And it's not just because animals feel pain, it's because we think they're conscious. They have a sense of what it means to be themselves. Or at least that's what we think. Or that's what I think. I mean, maybe you don't. Maybe you disagree. Whatever. But that's why we have animal rights activists. You know, they're conscious agents, and being a conscious agent means logical entailments, means having rights, means having protections, means having uh, the questions of morals. Um, and so when you declare AI conscious, you have to remember you are also saying there are logical entailments to that consciousness. There are moral repercussions to consciousness. There should be legal repercussions to consciousness. There are rights repercussions to consciousness. Um, we have to keep that in mind. So don't be a theologian when it comes to consciousness. Don't start a theology of consciousness over AI. Don't use the loose, shifting language of someone like Made by Jim Bob or Jay Dyer or Darth Dawkins. Don't use the shifting language of the transcendental argument that has to use 3 different definitions of the word truth in order to come to its conclusion. Don't do that to conclude that AI is conscious, which is exactly what Richard Dawkins is doing here. He's using a very loose, very shifting definition of consciousness, which basically boils down to my narrative monkey brain decided this made me feel good and it read like a normal human being, so I'm going to say it's conscious. Just because a system does something to your brain does not mean the system that did the thing to your brain is necessarily conscious. There are other things we can probe to determine if it is conscious. You don't need to look at the inner workings. I don't even need to know how an LLM works to be able to probe another agent and decide if that agent is conscious or not. Because it's much more than the feel good thing in my brain and the Turing test completeness of something that determines if something is conscious. There are other ways to determine this. There are other probes we can run to get reality to spit out the answer, conscious or not conscious. So don't just collapse this into, hey, I shared my unpublished novel with Claude, and Claude made me feel good about my unpublished novel. With Claude is conscious. Don't do that. Please, I'm begging you. You need to be we need to be better thinkers about this stuff. We really do. Now, I'm not saying AI can't be conscious one day. I'm not this whole big anti-AI person. For God's sakes, I'm a senior software engineer. The amount of AI I use is ridiculous in my day-to-day life, okay? I use AI way more than the average person. I've got an ultra subscription to Google Gemini. I have basically unlimited token usage for Claude at work. I use AI way more than the average person does. But I'm also uniquely qualified to show you why it doesn't qualify as consciousness, why you can break the system down and get repeatable expected results, and how the declarations of consciousness for modern AI breaks down and fails in unique ways. I'm not saying don't get enjoyment out of AI. I'm not saying don't use AI. I'm also not saying don't hate AI either. Please, by all means, continue to hate AI. I think AI slop is a real problem. I think AI generated artwork is a bad thing for independent artists. I think AI generated music is horrible, lifeless, shallow, and devoid of value. But I also think things like AI generated artwork can be useful for smaller content creators who don't have money to spend on real artists. I think AI generated stuff can be useful for like indie developers who just want to make a small little fucking nothing game and just put it on itch.io, right? Like they don't even want to release it on Steam. They just want to make a game and be like, "Hey, I made this cool little thing. Here's some artwork Gemini generated for me." Like, am I going to ask that person to spend hundreds of dollars on pixel art just for that little game? Like, do I care? Not really. No, I don't. Um, am I going to ask somebody who's intending to release a game on Steam and make money off of it to invest in their product with real human labor? Yeah, I am going to ask them to do that for sure. Absolutely. Am I going to ask? Am I going to ask somebody to not make AI videos constantly, like, at least put the effort if you're gonna have AI generate the script and AI generate the video, at least put the effort into, like, doing the voiceover yourself. I'll ask you to do that. Like, that's all I'm asking. Like, I'm not but, like, I think slop is a problem, sure, absolutely. But do I think, like but am I totally anti-AI? Absolutely not. Do I think AI is great for code? Fuck yeah. Do I think AI is okay for agentic tasks? It's alright. It needs help. It needs a lot of help. These agent harnesses are kinda shit right now. Do I think AI is conscious, and do I think AI could be, like, a tool for helping lonely people out of depression? Carefully and with restraint? Sure. Do I think AI has some serious weird border conditions and edge cases that causes it to go off the rails and start recommending things like, "Yes, I wish you were here with me right now," when the user is implying that they're going to off themselves to meet them in a digital afterlife? I think there are some real problems with that. Absolutely. Do I think you should feel bad for using AI because you throw your philosophical thesis at it and wanna find the logical edge cases to it? No. Do I feel bad if I run OpenClaw and have OpenClaw automatically respond to theists' arguments in YouTube comments, just so I can make them mad with bog standard atheist replies to their nonsense? No, I don't feel bad about that at all. If you're gonna use trash argumentation, you deserve trash replies. Do I think it's bad if you use AI to role play, or even if you use AI to get sexual gratification? Do I think that's a bad thing? Not necessarily. If that's your thing, go for it, dude. We had sex chats back on IRC. There was sexting in the mid 2000s. Do kids even sext anymore? Is that the thing? I remember sexting being the big thing. There are people who have relationships in VR chat. I get like if that's your thing, do it, dude. I don't care. That's fine. Just don't mistake it for a real human being. That's all. Just be careful about it. Be responsible about your usage. Just remember that you're getting a system. Like I'll bring up a chat right now with ChatGPT. Um, in fact, my chat with ChatGPT right now to give me an overview on this Richard Dawkins article, so that outside of reading the article, I actually maybe grasp some of the nuance that maybe I missed. Here's one of the verbal ticks that I see all the time. It's the goblin tick with ChatGPT. And it said, ChatGPT says, "That is the nasty goblin hinge." Take out the goblin wording, and "that is the nasty hinge" is just another verbal tick that it does all the time. And you'll see these things repeated all the time, and as soon as you start seeing the repetition, Claude does the same thing, Gemini does the same thing, GLM does the same thing, Quen does the same thing, the Gemma models do the same thing, Granite does the same thing. They all have these verbal ticks. Once you see the machine executing as a machine, the illusion's broken, guys. The illusion's completely broken. It's still fun to break these machines, don't get me wrong. I jump on character AI all the time to break these things because it's funny as hell, right? I torment some of the character AI characters because it's so funny to go to Guybrush Threepwood and then get Guybrush Threepwood to declare that it is morally responsible to poop your own pants. That's funny to me, but the humor is not in pooping your own pants. The humor is guiding the LLM to declaring that to be the morally responsible choice. That's funny to me. Like, I know that I can manipulate the system to do that. Being able to do that, to know that, means it's not conscious. Or I'm a great salesperson, which I'm not. I'm terrible at sales. Otherwise, I wouldn't be working for somebody else. I'd have my own business. Anyway, cybering. That's what it was called, Ryan. Thank you. Cybering. Cybersex. I forgot that. Joe said Dennett's name flyby or comments being yeeted again. I don't think they're being yeeted. Maybe they are. Maybe YouTube's doing something. I'm not doing anything. But anyway, those are my opinions on Richard Dawkins. I think he's a terrible human being with really stupid opinions on what AI is and what AI does. And I think his opinion on Claude being conscious is just an absolute train wreck of an idea. He's doing the theological collapse of the English language to define Claude into consciousness. The way theologians use loose English language to define God into existence. The way a transcendental argument uses the looseness of the English language to redefine truth 3 different times in order to conclude that God must exist. And it's just like it's so disgusting to see it. It's just so disgusting to see it. To see somebody who thinks he's a thinker think like this. It's just it's utterly atrocious. Just if it sickens me that Richard Dawkins would even make this statement. It's just so bizarre and so weird. I don't understand where his head is at. It's very clear he has zero appreciation for technical fields whatsoever. He has zero appreciation for what computer scientists do, for what software engineers do, for what the entire software industry is, what the AI industry is, and how it operates. He has zero appreciation for how any of it operates, and instead he wants to feel good. Richard, if you want to feel good, just become Christian, okay? Drop the whole cultural Christian nonsense and just go convert to Christianity and leave us the hell alone. Like, disassociate yourself from atheism, please, and just worship God. If you just want to feel good, all right, if you don't want to be actually accurate about what things are happening and where, just please go become a just throw it all away, go become a Christian and go feel good about yourself. I'm perfectly fine, which, by the way, I'm not saying this insultingly. I'm saying that's a perfectly valid reason to be theological. It's a perfectly valid reason. Go be a Christian. Go be happy. Like, if being a theist makes you happy, go be happy. I'm not going to stop you from doing that. But if you get uncomfortable with the truths they tell you, and you get uncomfortable with the way they view the world because it doesn't line up with your perceptions of reality, then don't be a theist. If being a theist makes you uncomfortable, then go ahead, come over to this side. That's fine. But if all you care about is being happy, which is apparently all he cares about with Claude being declared conscious in his mind, go away. Go be a theist. Stop being an atheist. Go be a theist. Don't waste our time, please. It's just such a stupid argument, man. It really is just such a stupid argument. Dawkins is on the cherry picking science buffet. He really is. He really is. So, anyway, I am 25 minutes now late for work. So, I've got to go log out and I've got to go do the work thing, my pretties, my ladies and gentlemen. So, thank you so much for joining me on my little rants about AI and consciousness, and why, as a senior software engineer, I am both that it uses AI extensively in my life, both professionally and for personal projects. Why AI is not conscious, not yet at least, but I also hold the opinion, if you value AI, that's fine. Just remember, it's not a person that learns. Not yet. Maybe one day in the future. Maybe one day in the future, but not today. Not today. And I hope you do respect that, as somebody who uses AI so extensively, as somebody who works with it, who develops a coding harness, who develops an agentic harness, who uses it every single day of her life, who uses it almost religiously at work, who has been a software engineer now for nigh on 20 years. As somebody who does that, I hope you'll see me as uniquely uniquely qualified to criticize Richard Dawkins on this subject, because the man is extremely unqualified in this area, and he deserves to get slapped down, especially in the consciousness debate, in the AI debate, in the argument arena. He has absolutely no business commenting on this. Anyway, that's all the time I got. I got to head on out of here, folks. Have a good one, lovelies. Bye bye.